Okay, guys, we're out here at 100 Center Place in New York City, Lower Manhattan. Just finished up today for Luigi Mangione. I'm going to give people time to come in a little bit and look out for some of the moderators. And then we're going to talk about this week. Today, obviously, Friday was the final day of the week, but we had quite a good week as far as this hearing goes. I was able to be in court each and every day. So far, it looks like it's going to be an exciting case, much different than the case with Sean Diddy Combs. As you know, I covered that case as well. Now, when I covered Sean Diddy Combs' case, and by the way, I just want to let you guys know it's freezing out here in New York City, but we're going to get through this. When I covered Sean Diddy Combs' case, it was over at the federal courthouse, which is right around the corner here. This one here is state level. Luigi Mangione has two cases in New York City, but he also has a case in Pennsylvania because he gave false information. He gave a driver's license that was allegedly made up. We kind of went through that this week in court. So at this particular courthouse, it's his state charges. On the channel, when we talk about this every week, a lot of people want to know how can in New York City he could be facing a death penalty when New York is not a death penalty state. Well, the reason being is because the death penalty is under the federal charges, which is over at the federal courthouse, the same courthouse where Sean Diddy Combs received his 50 months. So we're going to get into this week. I see people are starting to come in. Again, I tell you, it's extremely cold, but today we're going to talk about day 4. Okay, we have Stella in the building. Shout out to you. Also to you, Thomas. Yes, I'm trying to. Oh, Thomasina, my cousin. How are you? Good to see you, cousin. Oh, Sharon is in the building as well. So let's get to it. Let's talk about today. There was no Luigi Mangione hearing because he was sick. So Luigi Mangione was sick today. So the judge said that he would see us on Monday at 9:30 a.m. So Monday morning, I'll be here bright and early. Just keep in mind that a lot of us came to this courthouse today to try to observe what's happening with the case, to only find out I myself traveled almost 2 hours. Imagine that. And there was no hearing today. But it's a part of this series that we cover, that we try to face each and everything as it comes. Shout out to you, Andre. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. AI Smart City. Shout out to you guys. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. I'm going to try to get through this before I freeze. Yes, indeed. This is independent news. If you want to support the channel, all you have to do is hit the like button. That's it. We don't need your money. Just hit the like button if you like to know what's happening with some of the biggest cases in America. And oftentimes these cases happen right here in New York City. And right behind me, I'm going to show you guys. This is the courthouse where Luigi Mangione's case is. 100 Center Place here in New York City, Lower Manhattan. So let's get to it. So as I mentioned, today we arrived for court. A lot of people, as you can see across the street, I'm going to show you. They stay in tents all night long just to be able to attend this trial. For the most part, from what I'm seeing, it's a lot of young, intelligent girls that are actually following this case. And it's not just a matter that they like him. There's been a big narrative out there that the girls are following him because he's a good-looking guy, and even some of the guys. Well, there is some truth to that. They like him. And a lot of times when Luigi Mangione comes out, they bring him out into the courtroom from the front right of the courtroom. And when he comes out, he usually go right to his seat. He's handcuffed. From what I see in this particular case, they bring out the judge first, and then they have Luigi Mangione come out, in which he's, as I say, handcuffed. They unhandcuff him, and he usually sits down. Now, what I have observed is, unlike Sean Diddy Combs, when Diddy was facing his case, he didn't really turn around a lot during the proceeding. In this particular case, Luigi Mangione, he turns around a lot. 2 days ago, I saw him say to someone, and I'm just speculating, reading his lips. He said, "Did you receive my card?" It looks like the person said yes, and then he smiled. But what I did notice for the last couple of days, he was sitting in court with his head down, and I'm like, is he dealing with something mentally, physically? So when they said today that he was sick, I could understand that based on what I'd been seeing here in the courtroom. Now, what I find to be most astonishing about this case is the police officers were lying to Luigi back to back. Now, you might say, well, I know what you're going to say. People say, oh, he took the life of a man, he shot him in daylight. Yeah, that's true. But the fact that police officers, we learned yesterday, when they go to their training in Indiana, they are taught that they can lie to you. They can even create a ruse to make you believe a scenario is true just to get you to confess or whatever it may be. Now, again, we're not taking away what happened with Brian Thompson, but in this particular case, I find it troubling how he was arrested, right? Now, here's a point of interest that came out in this case as well. When Luigi was arrested, he was arrested in McDonald's in, I think they call it Altoona, Pennsylvania. A call came in from 911, and someone said that they believe that the New York City shooter was sitting in the lobby of McDonald's or in the dining room. So there were two police officers that responded. One, his name was Detwilder, and he's been on the force for 14 years, give or take. He had an individual that he was training. His name is Officer Fry, who was riding with him. He was training him on traffic patrol and how to be a good patrolman, right? So the call came in. The lead officer was quite sarcastic, like really, he couldn't believe or didn't want to believe really that this was a New York City shooter. So what I like about this case versus Diddy's case is that all week we basically been reviewing videotape from the arrest, so it keeps people awake. At Diddy's trial, everybody was sleeping based on all of the testimony. I mean, there were a lot of things about freak-offs and things like that that I think people found to be intriguing. But for the most part, this case is so much video because they're trying to determine if the evidence gathered from his arrest was legitimate. Did they have probable cause to these items or even to him? Well, in this particular case, as I was telling you, Sean Diddy Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, he was the lead attorney. Him and his wife are also the lead attorneys on this case. So familiar faces indeed. But on this case, I find that Mark Agnifilo, whereas he was kind of, I'd say, flustered, very apologetic when dealing with Diddy's case. In this case, he's more like a bulldog, getting right to the points. And, this is ultimately could be that the man's life is on the line. So they're approaching this case hard and heavy. But I told his wife, I says, and he was there, obviously, I said, you're much better than him. That was just friendly jokes between us. So it's nice to see them. I think that they're very efficient at what they do. And I think based on what I saw with Sean Diddy trial, I was there every day in the main courtroom for that case 9 weeks. I think in this particular case, he's in good hands, even though ultimately I'm not trying to take away from allegedly what he did in taking the life of Brian Thompson, okay? So anyway, I'm just going to breeze through what this week was about, and I'll let you guys go. And obviously, it's freezing out here. But anyway, at the top of the week, they talked to some of the correctional officers, and it's a big issue that their stories don't necessarily drive. So why is that the case? Why their stories don't jive? We're going to get to that. But I want to start off with the arrest of Luigi. When the two officers walked inside of McDonald's, Luigi was sitting in the corner, and they approached him, and they already had in their minds that pretty much he could be the New York City shooter. So the officer walked up to his table where he was eating his breakfast. He was having a steak sandwich and I believe maybe a hash brown or whatever. So he asked him to pull down because the individual had on a brown beanie and he also had on a medical mask trying to hide his face and a black jacket. So the officer had him remove the medical mask. And when he did that, the officer said he knew 100% that it was the shooter from New York City. Now let's just rewind back here to New York City. The only real reason that they could tie Luigi to this case is because of three shots that they have, three pictures. When he went to the hostel here in New York where he was staying, he was flirting with a female, so he revealed his face, probably trying to be a Mac Daddy of some sort, I'm not sure. Another time they have his face is when he was getting into the cab. And then they also have a photo of him in the back of the cab. So those are the three shots of the New York City shooter. And that evidence came out in the court this week, the hearing this week as well. So anyway, I find it a good point of interest is that the officer said that all the intel that he knew about Luigi, he got from watching Fox News. So can you imagine that? He saw so many different frames. He said he saw the entire video of where the officer was shot by Luigi Mangione. Now, I will tell you, the first time that I saw the video was here in court this week, and the video is terrifying. When I covered Sean Diddy Combs' trial, we had the video on the first day of trial of Diddy kicking Cassie, beating her, and I thought it was atrocious, right? But this video really takes the cake because you can see this individual, Brian Thompson. He's walking down the street. He has on a blue jacket, I believe. He seems to be swinging his arms, almost like a guy that's walking along and singing. And he's looking around. You can see that the shooter was lying in wait. And so as Brian is walking down the street, the shooter comes from behind him and shoots him in the back. He turns around, startled. You could tell he's in pain. And then the shooter shoots him again, I believe. You can't really tell because the video in court doesn't have sound. But he goes down in the darkness of the corner of the street. The shooter walks by. I couldn't tell if he shot him again because at no time during the video do you see like a spark of fire from a shot coming from the gun. Now, we do find that the gun that Luigi had a muzzle on it, or allegedly Luigi has a muzzle on it, a silencer. So maybe that's why you're not getting that flash. I'm not sure. Or maybe it wasn't him. We don't know that far into the case. But I will tell you, according to the evidence, there was 3 bullets. One bullet had deny etched into it. The other one had delay. And then the third bullet had depose. And that's the terms used by the insurance companies when people are fighting cancer and all these other, diseases and health problems. The insurance companies, they deny, they delay, and they depose. So I imagine that's the message. Now, what's key in this case, we've seen several shootings afterward. You see the shooting of Charlie Kirk. There was engraving in the bullets. So we've seen it in that case. And then there was another case recently where they actually wrote on the bullets. So maybe this was inspired some way from the shooting that happened here in New York City. I'm not too sure. But at any rate, I'm just going to hit a few more points. When Luigi was sitting there at the table, the police officers were standing in front of him. It was 2 officers. They made this into like a fanfare that during those working hours, there was less than 30 officers in the entire force working that morning shift. 13 of them came to that McDonald's and were all standing around Luigi looking at him. And that really came out in court under cross-examination. But the point of the matter is, the defense is trying to show that Luigi was basically held against his will or blocked from leaving, although the prosecutors are trying to say, "Oh yeah, we didn't really hold him against his will," but they're doing a good job showing that if he wanted to leave, he did not have the opportunity. And they also brought out in court, which I didn't know, that even though he may have been wanted in another state and they thought he met the description, that does not give them a right to arrest him. So I didn't realize that. So this case is turning because when Luigi was arrested, his book bag was on the floor. Now, we later found out there was a gun in it, and also his diary. A lot of information is very incriminating, I must say. But the question this week is, can those items be thrown out? Guys, we're in New York City, people yelling, all sorts of things happening. We just have to deal with it, right? But at any rate, they're trying to say perhaps they did not even have the right to hold him. And if they didn't have the right to, detain him, then those items might be thrown out. And if you don't have those items, I'm pretty sure they could still work around it and build their case. But at any rate, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to take a moment here to recognize a few people, see what's happening. Shout out to you, Deborah. How are you, Stella? Thank you guys for being here. I hope you're enjoying the update on what's happening with Luigi. Now, here's the key point about this case. Yeah, it's absolutely cold out here, but it is what it is. When the officer had Luigi sitting at the table, they told him basically that, thank you guys in a minute to the comments. The officer told him the reason why they were holding him is because McDonald's had reported that he was sitting in the lobby or the dining room too long. Under cross-examination, the defense, Karen Agnifilo, pointed out that he was lying, right? The officer also told Luigi, while he's sitting there trying to figure out why the police are standing in front of him, the officer says, "Oh, in the last week, we've been called 6 times because people are just loitering in the dining area." Well, the defense, Karen Agnifilo, pointed out, "Were you lying about that?" The officer said, "Yeah." "Well, why are you lying so freely?" "Oh, well, I just want him to feel comfortable. I don't want him to know that we're investigating him as the New York shooter." So it went on for maybe about 6 points that I pinned down where the officer was lying. Under cross-examination, Karen Agnifilo tore him apart, really. It made him look bad as an officer. Now, keep in mind, when the officers bring you in and you lie to them, you have a big problem. Even yesterday with Fry, when he was on the stand, now he's the second officer. He was caught in lies because he's trying to protect officer number 1. And it's so terrible because you're like, why are these officers just sitting here lying? One of the Officer Fry, he couldn't even answer yes or no. He kept saying, and so the judge reprimanded him and told him to use words basically from the English language. Now, mind you, these are officers patrolling the street. So I can tell you with this trial, you're going to see a lot happening. And you're going to find out a lot about the officers. Before I go, though, I want to point out a few other things as well. When it comes to the girls that are following Luigi, I'd say there's probably about 100 that I've seen in totality. Many of them are working as paralegals. They work for nonprofit organizations. They're part of organizations because they have this new thing called the Luigi Revolution. So this is not just a fanfare type of deal. They're concerned that in the American society, the big corporations, they take all the money for insurance purposes. But then when people are sick, kind of like the movie John Q, when people are sick, they're left lying in the sand, right? So it's more than just what the media is portraying. Uh, these girls are coming out here, staying out on the street. They're not here just to have fun. And that was a narrative that I had heard previous to being here myself. But now that I've met them, a lot of them said that they would come on the show. So I'm going to put together a panel so you can hear from these girls. There are a few guys too, but this is a serious matter, and it's not what the big media is saying, that they're just some, oh, I love Luigi. No, it's more than that. There's a big machine moving in the background, and they're also concerned about the death penalty and how inhumane it is. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you take a life, then your life should be up for grabs too, right? So we can get into all those debates, but I'm just trying to help those who want to hear about this trial understand what the details are. So at any rate, we're going to be back here on Monday to find out more about the case. There are several officers, but the defense did a good job breaking down how all of these police officers came out. Basically, they wanted to be able to say they had a part in arresting someone from New York. That's probably one of the biggest cases of our time when it comes to a murder involving a CEO of United Healthcare. The fact that within about 35 minutes you had 13 officers surrounding the guy. And at one point, Luigi said, I have on a lot of coats, because he had on about 3 layers. He says, he says, why are there so many officers here? He says, I have on a lot of coats. I'm not a big guy. So basically, how many more officers are you going to bring in? So every time he inquired, like, what is this about? They just fed him with another lie. So you could take it for what it's worth. I'm just giving you an idea for those who are interested in this case, the things that I heard, the things that I saw. I see that the prosecutors, they have an attorney. The lead attorney is a very sharp guy. He reminds me of Columbo. He's very sharp with his questioning, and he's a very witty guy. But I do believe that Karen Agnifilo is up for the cause. I've seen the work that they did with Sean Diddy Combs' trial. I follow their office and some of their cases, so it's exciting to understand the process. But I see that they're working hard to try to defend their client. Whether people like him or not, that's not the question. The question is, will they be able to save his life, or will his life be on the chopping block because of what happened here? So as you can see, my eyes are watering. It's so freezing cold out here. I want to take a few questions or see what people are saying before I take off. What's up, Eric? How are you? I missed the news at noon, but it is what it is. For right now, I'm covering the case. It's also snowing out here at the same time, folks. I will be out here bringing you the news about this case every day. Right now, though, I thought it would be a one-day hearing, but it turns out they're going to question 30 witnesses. So they've only questioned maybe 5. Hold on one second. Oh, I hope my eyes aren't freezing. That's a joke, by the way. They've only questioned probably about 6 so far. So we have quite a bit to go. So I imagine I'll be here every day next week. And again, you'll see the people out here on the street staying overnight in a sleeping bag. It is so cold. Can you imagine that? Stella says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications and be notified for upcoming shows. Tomorrow night, I will be on a law show. I'll be streaming to my channel. as well. So we'll be talking about this case. Obviously, on Sunday at 8 p.m., I'll be on with Calvin Johnson. We're going to break down, did they have the right to treat Luigi that way? Now, let's not take away from Brian Thompson. I know what's going to happen. I'm already seeing people saying, well, he took the life, he shot the guy. Everybody's entitled to due process, and that's what this is about. So let's not get it twisted. I remember far too well all the drama that happened with Sean Diddy Combs' case. And even when you present the facts, there's always somebody on the other side saying, well, you shouldn't think that way about it because he shot the guy or whatever. We don't know because the thing is, you're entitled to your thoughts, right? But everybody's entitled to due process. That's the point of the matter. Innocent until proven guilty. And that's where we're going to stay with this particular case. Shout out to the person that gave a donation. That's awesome for you. I don't even know how to see it right now, but we'll get to that too. Let's see if there's any questions. Yes, Deborah, it's cold out here. Yeah, I went out with some of the broadcasters and then I went live. So, but at any rate, we're out here watching the world. Frank says Dodgers 2 times in a row gonna be okay. All right. Sharon, you're welcome. Glad to be able to do it. Okay. All right. All right, Thomasino Martin. What's up, Thomasino? Thank you so much. Okay. Somebody was deleted. Yeah, Deborah, I have to have the hoodie this time of year. It's brutal out here. Make sure I have plenty of liquids. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Shout out to you, Stella, Eric, everybody holding it down. Yes, indeed, AI Smart City Yankees will not make the playoffs. Yeah, unfortunately, my Cowboys are not doing too good, but I am going to the Cowboys versus the Giants game, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I might report a little bit of that too, guys, since I'm there, right? But thank you guys for tuning in. It's time for me to be out because it's freezing out here, and I have a long way to go. But we'll be back on Monday, at least here at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, to bring you more news about this case. A lot of people, right now, there's not a lot of interest, but believe me, when the trial comes, everybody's going to want to know what's happening with this case because this case is similar to what we've seen in history when it comes to rich people, and often the poor are not getting the right treatment, so they retaliate, and that's what's happening here in this case. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching the world. I'll definitely keep you guys in the know about a very significant trial, and I appreciate the support. Thank you.